And we are live, everybody. Welcome to this week's Café Hangout.
I'm John Pollock alongside Wai Ting. Welcome to the Café Hangout, your Thursday at 3 o'clock appointment with the post-wrestling crew. Thank you for tuning in. We have a fun show planned for you. We are going to be joined by our own Andrew Thompson later on in the show. Andrew was in Baltimore.
We have people now? Our own Andrew Thompson?
Our own, not anyone else's.
Amazing.
Andrew will be joining us. He was in Baltimore this past weekend covering Starrcast and Full Gear, so we're going to unpack that events, plural, with Andrew and chat about what the latest news is going around the world of professional wrestling. It never stops, and that's why we're here, to try and make sense of it all.
Do you think it'll ever stop? Do you think it'll ever be a
One day, everybody in the industry wakes up and says, we're doing nothing today. Everyone is staying in bed. Nobody's picking up a phone. No one's going on a computer. Nothing happens. Not one website gets updated. The world is on pause.
You know how we have like on Earth Day, like it's like a, like everybody
an hour
shuts
of
the lights
observation
off.
where you turn your lights off?
Maybe an hour of shutting wrestling off. No wrestling news, no new wrestling.
Everyone
TV
turns their
shows.
lights off, and then there's a surge at the end of the hour where everybody is demanding the electrical grids to be activated and distributing power.
So
that is not a scientific breakdown. That's just my theory on how these things work. But happy November 14th.
Is this a significant day?
It's my brother's birthday today. Happy birthday.
That is very
Yeah,
significant.
Scorpio.
Yeah, happy birthday to...
The day after Scorpio Sky got his win over Chris Jericho.
It's almost like they booked him to win just because of that.
They're booking by horoscope.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday to...
Beating a fellow Scorpio and Chris Jericho. It was his birthday this past weekend.
Damn, you're good.
Yeah.
Wow, not only are you great with like pay-per-view dates, you wrestlers' birthdays as well. Damn, very nice.
Not bad. Not bad.
I'm very impressed.
So, Mr. March 14th, if you want to give us a call, which we're always happy to take your calls 365 days of the year, 366 next year, give us a call at 1732-800-4423, or you can Skype in by searching for Post Wrestling. We're going to be taking your calls throughout the show. Want to throw some topics out there for everybody. Some of the news this week. CM Punk appearing on WWE Backstage. What are you hoping to see from CM Punk on this show? What expectations do you have of this show in general? Are you looking at this for to go beyond the surface subjects that you'd kind of expect from a WWE studio show? Do you see this being sort of a new age version of Confidential, where they'll go into some topics, but they're going to stay away from others? I kind of wanted just an assessment on WWE Backstage, and if CM Punk being on this show is going to make you a regular viewer when he is on. Other topics to discuss. It's a relatively quiet weekend. What are you going to do with your weekend?
This weekend,
we've got the World Tag League kicking off from New Japan, which I don't know if that's a priority for most people out there, but we don't have any major pay-per-views. There's a UFC card in Brazil. That's what's going on. It's a quiet one. What are you going to do this weekend?
I might even sit down and read a book. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what's happening on Sunday afternoon in Toronto?
Sunday afternoon in Toronto. No.
You could basically walk down the streetway because the Santa Claus parade will be happening.
Of course.
Yes.
This is like WrestleMania weekend for you.
New route this year.
Wow.
I believe it starts at Bloor and Parliament at 12:30.
How early do you line up?
See, I have not gone to a Santa Claus parade in years. It sounds like you have to get there a bit early if you want to get a decent spot and be able to see something, especially if you have a small child that wants to be able to see everything. Mm-hmm. It's actually better to just go onto the Santa Claus parade website and volunteer to be a clown in the parade, which I've contemplated, to be honest.
Of course you have. I look forward to hearing your review of it.
I'm not going.
Oh, you're not going?
No.
You're not going?
No, I'm probably just going to watch it.
Just too much hassle, Is that it?
It's very difficult. It's also at a very awkward time with a 2-year-old because that is his nap time. So it kind of throws everything else out. But my biggest concern, Wai, is that the parade is at 12:30 and then it airs on TV at 4:30. Can I avoid spoilers? I mean, what's going to happen? It's going to be on tape delay.
Yeah, you never know.
How's this going to affect viewership? I mean, being on a 3-hour delay.
Could be a last minute swerve and Santa gets taken over by somebody else.
Yeah, imagine that at the end of it.
The Easter Bunny show.
Oh, and then like the Santa Claus parade fans are going to be, oh, it's so predictable. Every year it ends the same way. So unoriginal.
Yeah. I've never really been much for those types of events, other than the time I actually joined a Santa Claus parade, uninvited with you for your bachelor party.
That's right.
That was interesting. That was fun. But
we were in Montreal and we were out. We went to the Montreal version of the Santa Claus parade, and we were dressed as elves, and then we just joined in on the parade. And there were how many were there?
I would say we were probably
6,
like
7?
7, 8 deep. Yeah.
There were like 8 of us, let's say, and there were at least 2 of them that would not join this parade with us for fear of repercussions.
Oh yeah.
I thought to myself, if we get in trouble or somehow at worst we're going to be asked to leave, at best maybe we get arrested, and this is the greatest story ever. This would be worth it. So we were all in, and then we got approached and said, excuse me, what section are you in the parade? And I shot my shot. I just said, oh, we're in section 2C. Didn't work.
As if these are seats.
I didn't know what this meant, but I just picked a number and a letter. I was like, maybe this means something. And she just looked at me and was like, okay, you guys can go another 3 minutes, and then please just depart the parade route, and that's it, okay? And I said, all right.
It suggests that they had a modicum of respect for what we were doing.
They were like, okay, you guys are not causing any harm. You are very much on brand here in your elf costumes. 3 minutes, and then you're out. I said, okay, that's fair.
It was probably, I think, I would say my favorite part of your bachelor weekend. And for a lot of people, I think bachelor parties.
It wasn't going to a bar to watch the Manny Pacquiao fight?
No. It wasn't that, no. And I think bachelor parties in Montreal mean a lot for other people. But for me, it was joining the Santa Claus parade with John Pollock.
After the parade, we're walking, still in our costumes, and all of a sudden I hear, John? And I look down, and it's my former roommate, Luc Doucette, who's living in Montreal, who just randomly runs into me dressed up in an elf costume with my friends. And that's what I recall.
That happens. I ran into a former classmate of ours this weekend, JP.
Oh,
JP
no
Zealy,
way.
Yeah.
JP Zealy.
I hadn't seen this guy for 12 years, and all of a sudden, I'm in a bar, and he's like, here's a guy who's looking at me. And I'm like, I know that guy. So it's like, we catch up, and of course, everything that happens in the span of 12 years. He's got a kid now. He's just a little younger than Max.
Wow.
It's just amazing having these experiences where you're running into people from 12 years ago, and all of a sudden you realize, a lot happens in 12 years.
See, I'm very conscious now when I do run into people that I try to avoid the cliche questions.
Yeah.
The ones that I hate answering and also hate asking.
So instead you ask them about their thoughts on climate change and...
Yeah. So what'd you think about the last election?
Seriously?
I don't know. I don't run into too many old friends. Let's be honest here. Actually, it was one of my best friends in elementary school. Her birthday was yesterday. Another Scorpio. And I just wished her a happy birthday. And then it's usually once a year we connect on our birthdays and just talk back and forth. And actually, you came up. So
did I?
Here, we're really gonna get to wrestling topics. I'm just
at some point.
So
honestly, whenever you guys decide to call in,
happy birthday. Hope you're doing great, John. Brackets Pollock. Hi, John. Thank you. It's been forever. How are things? How's the baby? I respond. He's doing very well. He's talking a lot. I'm running my own business with a friend of mine. We're doing that full time. It's a news and podcast network. Hope you're doing well. Response, that's awesome. I see your Facebook posts sometimes. And then I realize there's a lot of Facebook posts about our shows. Mm-hmm. You still work with wrestling, right? Or report on it? Yes, I report on it. LOL, that's the word I was looking for. You're a journalist. Happy face.
Okay. Are you going to tell me who that was?
You wouldn't know them. This is my friend from elementary school.
Oh, your friend from elementary. So it's not somebody I know.
I was just saying you came up in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like every conversation I've had over the past 5 years with people that I've run into from school.
Do you ever get tempted to just make up answers like, how's work?
Yeah, maybe like, I haven't done that yet. Maybe I would. Maybe I would just craft a completely different identity, maybe a different name,
Yeah. Funny thing about work, I don't do it anymore, period. I'm just living off my land.
I'm a monk now.
Yeah. I got a giant inheritance.
Yeah.
I'm traveling the world, and I have zero responsibilities in my life. Nothing.
It would certainly be a lot more memorable.
Yeah. Just make stuff up and see if you get called on it.
I will try that.
Moving on.
Let's take our first phone call.
Oh,
You
who's
wanna
on
do
the
that?
line?
I don't know. You tell me, caller. What is your name and where are you calling from?
And how's work going, caller?
Yeah. Oh. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. Hi.
Oh, hi. My name is Mikhail. I'm calling from Fairfield, California. How are you guys doing?
Hi,
Hey,
Mikhail.
Mikhail.
Okay.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say, you guys do a really good job. I'm watching AEW right now with my grandpa,
Okay.
and he's really been enjoying it. So that's just one thing that I wanted to say.
You're
Yeah.
watching at this
I don't know
moment
how.
right now?
Yeah,
Can
I'm
we
watching it.
can we
record
talk to
of
your
it.
grandpa?
I watched it at work yesterday. He's on the phone too, so I can't give him.
Is he
phone.
calling
Sorry
into
about
a rival show? Is he calling in the Wrestling Observer Live this second and saying the exact same message to them?
that. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Okay. Well, he's enjoying what match is he watching right now?
We're watching Hangman Page and Pac.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, don't spoil the ending for me.
Because he watches wrestling all the time, so he was just telling me earlier how interesting he thinks Cody is, which is really interesting to me.
That's his favorite guy?
That's his favorite, but I just thought it was interesting because he watches all the wrestling. He watches everything more than I do, so it's kind of crazy.
Did he have a chance to watch the Moxley versus Omega death match on Saturday?
No, but I'm gonna show him and see what he thinks.
I'm
'cause-
really curious to know what your grandfather might think of that one.
Yeah, but I'll write in and let you guys go. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, thank you very much,
Thank you for calling.
Mikhail, for calling from California.
Next time, please get your grandfather on the phone.
Yeah, we'd love to hear
his
from him.
thoughts.
I will do, guys.
All right,
nice
you have a
day.
great day. All right. We have a few announcements for SmackDown on Friday night. Daniel Bryan's going to be on Miz TV. They're doing a rematch with the New Day against the Revival for the tag titles. And we also have the addition of Lacey Evans to the women's SmackDown team, joining Sasha Banks, Carmella, and Dana Brooke.
Great.
SmackDown in Philadelphia.
It's amazing how little interest I have in any of the Survivor Series matches versus what I think they're building up for War Games, especially when it comes to the War Games matches themselves compared to these.
I think the women's
5-on-5
match has been built up
matches.
very strong. I'm excited to see Matt Riddle and Finn Balor. That should be a really strong match. Survivor Series itself, there was, I guess after you shot the angle last week, there was really no need for a follow-up this week. But to me, Brock and Ray has been promoted very effectively, although it was
Did they
hardly even
announce that
brought up
match?
this week.
Did they announce that match officially?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they have.
They announced it after the attack last week.
I guess this week neither of them were present at the taping, so you couldn't really do anything.
Ray's over there, but I guess they just opted not to follow up with anything.
Huh.
So
Okay. Let's go back to the phone lines here. We got Jared Black on the phone. Jared, what's on your mind?
Hey guys, how are you? It's 6:00 in Brisbane, Australia right now, so
Oh, wow.
no work for me today. But yeah, it's good to join you guys for the first time.
Yeah.
thanks
6
very much,
a.m.
Jared. What's on your mind?
I really wanted to give you guys a call. I originally was supposed to be attending Wrestle Kingdom this year in Japan, but other holiday plans have changed my schedule a little bit. And the reason I was really disappointed in that is I really wanted to go and see these 2 nights that they've got planned for Wrestle Kingdom. But I know it's pretty early, and you guys might have talked about it before, and we'll talk about it soon. But any predictions on what's going to happen with this whole double title situation? Because I really do think this is the time that they want to pull the trigger on Naito and really go full force with him and finally give him that win in the second night over Okada. But yeah, I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, if I had to make a prediction today, I could see Okada retains against Ibushi and then loses to Naito. I think it's important that Naito beat Okada at the Dome because that was, the big story of Naito losing to Okada the last time they had their Wrestle Kingdom match 2 years back. So I think that should be kind of the culminating moment for Naito to regain the IWGP Heavyweight title against the guy that he lost the title back to at Dominion back in 2016. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I could see things going. But you could make the argument that Okada could run the table. You could also, I really don't like the idea of Ibushi just winning for one night, and I also just don't see him coming out of both nights with all the titles either.
Now, what does that do for Kota Ibushi, having, all that momentum coming out of the G1, winning with the briefcase and failing, not just potentially on the first night? If not winning.
Yep. I think it's important that we see Ibushi at least challenge for it separately, and that's probably what'll happen on night one, that he at least goes a decent length with Okada and puts in a good effort. And even if he fails, at least it's not a WWE standard thing where he loses the briefcase beforehand and they just switch the booking and something goes differently. But I think if he puts a strong showing against Okada and then maybe challenges Naito sometime next year, and they kind of pick up that world title program for Ibushi. But thanks so much for taking my call, guys. I'll leave you back to it, and thanks so much.
Jared, thank you as always for the call and as well for the consistent support. So thank you so much.
There's also, they're going to do the winners on January 5th, but also the losers will face each other. So you could have the scenario where Ibushi loses the first night, wins on the second, and then you have Naito Ibushi finish off that feud at a future show. Maybe, I don't know if you go as early as New Beginning, but that's still a feud that has, to me, have one more final match, and that could be Naito's first big title defense is against Ibushi if he comes out of it with a win on night 2.
In either scenario or in any scenario, can you see Naito coming out of that weekend not being a champion?
Absolutely, because it's Naito.
Yeah.
So the fact that everyone is assuming his coronation, that seems to never occur, that is possible. If not Naito, who would be the most likely person to walk out with the 2 titles?
In my opinion, it would be Ibushi. Like I said, coming out with that momentum coming out of the G1, certainly would place Jay White at the lowest of that. I think the probability, and maybe even Okada above him just slightly.
So you could see Ibushi and Naito scoring off the second night?
Potentially.
And then you get Okada and Jay White, conversely, on the second night. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's reasonable explanations for multiple scenarios that you can make sense of that it could go.
Back to the phone lines. Caller, what's on your mind? Hello, hello, hello.
I bet it's Brandon.
Hey, Wai Ting.
Hi, yes, that is my
Brandon.
full name.
Hey. How are you doing? Tom from Vermont. How you
Tom.
doing today?
Do you mind just turning down the radio in the background?
Oh, sorry. I can do that. How's that?
Very good. What's on your mind, Tom?
Cool. I remember John, I want to say it was a review of Raw maybe 2 weeks ago, got into talking about he was a big Kevin Smith fan and how he wanted to go to his new movie, but didn't know it was a one-night kind of occasion.
Yeah. And?
So I was going to say, I did actually go to the one-night screening of that movie, and he talked a little longer, and he said that he also saw Kevin Smith back at the Roy Thompson Hall. Was that in 2004 by any chance?
I believe so.
Okay, I was there too in the building at the same time.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Because I was going to school in Oakville at Sheridan at the time, and when you were talking about it, I don't know if you said Roy Thompson Hall, but you said that you saw him, and I was like, I wonder if that was the same show at the Roy Thompson Hall that I went to.
You could have been sitting right next to John Pollock.
What a small world.
And I do want to say the movie was really good, and obviously it's going to be funny for someone who's seen his other films, but there's actually a few moments in there that are actually probably bring a tear to your eye too, believe it or not. So,
without getting to spoilers of this person's role, what did you think of the performance of Chris Jericho doing whatever he was doing in that film?
Well, I mean, I thought it was fun. I mean, if you weren't a Chris Jericho fan, you'd probably miss it. Like, it's a very short cameo.
Okay.
But for what it was, I mean, it was cool to have him in the movie, but it was very short. Like, there was a lot of stars in this movie that they had to squeeze in. So.
Huh. Okay. All right.
But I'd say, hey, he does a good job. But yeah, it's like if you blink, you might miss it.
All right.
Deal.
But you recommend the movie. You had a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I wouldn't pay. I forget what you're saying for tickets, something crazy, $100-something. But maybe wait till it comes out on Netflix or something like that.
That's probably the smart play.
Or Disney Plus at this point.
But yeah, actually, I checked out Disney Plus. Also, I saw that Mandalorian. The first episode of that was pretty good.
Braden and Davey have a review of that right now on Up Next. So thank you for sending that plug up there. Anything else on your mind, wrestling wise?
No, I mean, I've been a little burnt out on wrestling lately. I've been catching up
really
with AEW, but yeah.
As evidenced by, I think, your phone call about Kevin Smith and the Mandalorian, which I appreciate, which I think our audience might appreciate from time to time as well. So what exactly kind of like, made you stop watching, I suppose?
Well, I mean, I haven't stopped. I still watch Dynamite. Kind of gave up on NXT with. Got really formulaic, and this whole war has been not a good look, I think, for it. I mean, they're trying, but I don't know. I think it's just most.
Are you okay?
I have WWE.
Are you okay, man?
I'm sorry. It's WWE fatigue, I guess.
I understand. I fully understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
well,
bad enough. I've been watching Impact, so I guess that explains the problem. So.
Oh, so you actually watch quite a bit. How have you been enjoying Impact?
Actually, I've really liked the North.
All right, Andrew, we're losing you.
Yeah.
So thank you. The North is a great tag team. We'll reconnect at a later date.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
No, I tried everybody. It's terrible phone connection, but I'm curious about his perspective. So please call back another time.
So, did you get to watch NXT?
I did. Yeah.
Really hot match to kick off things with Lio Rush and Angel Garza.
Yes,
they had a tremendous opener, and seems to be based on the finish that they'll go to a rematch at some point. But what phenomenal chemistry these two had.
It was fantastic, and I'm really impressed at how they managed to, I think, do a pretty good job of resuscitating that Cruiserweight Championship on Lio Rush. Just all you really need are hot matches in front of a very hot crowd at NXT.
That crowd was fantastic for that match.
I thought it was a great showcase for Angel Garza, who you can certainly see a bright future for in NXT. I think showcasing a great deal of personality, and the only blemish, of course, maybe being the foot on the rope deal. I don't know how they're going to necessarily play that up. I don't know exactly if the foot was supposed to stay on the rope the entire time and that got screwed up somehow, but they cut it off from the replay, so it kind of makes you believe that something was kind of screwed up. So otherwise than that, it was a really perfect match.
Yeah, that was fantastic. What else did we have? We had the continuation for the teams to be set up with Dominik Dijakovic joining the men's team with Keith Lee and Tommaso Ciampa. Riddle's out of the team to take on Balor, and they've left one outstanding spot for the men's team to take on the Undisputed Era. And then conversely, for the women's side, we have Kaylee Ray coming over to join Io Shirai, Bianca Belair, and Captain Shayna Baszler.
I find it pretty cool that, I mean, I don't know if Dijakovic was meant to be on the team anyway, but the fact that you could take, just because Gargano was out, you could take Riddle out, reshuffle everything, and still have the cards look as good as they do. Like, I'm not any less interested for these matches because Gargano's out and because Riddle's out of that match. Like, they can just play around with the pieces because everybody is so strong right now. So I'm excited for the men's match, but the women's match, I'm really excited for because I think they've done a great job of telling the stories of the entire team. Dakota Kai is becoming like one of my favorite characters thus far in all of professional wrestling. And she hasn't even had to do that much. It's simply because they set her up on such a great, potential, like, you don't know if it's a heel turn. You don't know if she's just going to side with the baby faces. I thought the little teases that they had throughout the show yesterday were really good. They almost, like, I feel maybe blew it off too soon by just showcasing that she's helping like the baby faces, but of course that could still change.
Yeah, no, she's since the comeback, I really liked what they did last week with the tease, and then Rhea Ripley opting to go with Mia Yim, and teasing something down the road between those two, and with Kai getting involved in the main event. What did you think about the ladder match?
I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I mean, and part of me wonders if I was more looking forward to it because I had heard about the crazy cut that Mia Yim had prior to the match. So I was almost like anticipating it and knowing that I was about to see a crazy amount of blood. But I mean, much like the Cody match on the weekend, I think this was like an incident that to me accentuated the drama in the match because you got to be able to see what both Mia Yim and especially Io Shirai, how they had to improvise to, cover up this unexpected, terrible looking injury on live TV. And I thought both of them did tremendous.
Yeah, there was a faucet running from Mia Yim's nose after the springboard drop kick. And you could see like they're just trying to communicate here on live television of what to do. And Shirai is just stalling for time, and they were able to continue the match and get everything across. But yeah, that was a big problem in the middle there. So
yeah, we're gonna get Andrew Thompson on very shortly, and we'll continue maybe our NXT discussion a little bit after that, maybe even with Andrew. But Andrew Thompson, of course, for many people who are unaware, he is the latest addition, I would say, to our post-wrestling journalistic team staff, consisting of John Pollock and now.
We've grown it by 50%.
We've doubled our staff, but he's been doing a fantastic job, especially on Wednesdays and Thursdays, where he posts these very, very detailed updates consisting of pretty much all the wrestling content that might be out there in the form of interviews and just any sort of events. Very comprehensive. Andrew does a great job, so hopeful to get him on the show right now.
Yes, he's also got an interview up on the site with Trish Adora. If you want to go check that out, that is up at postwrestling.com. And as we mentioned, Andrew was in Baltimore last weekend covering Starrcast 4 and AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view. He joins us on the line, Andrew Thompson. Andrew, how are you?
How y'all doing, John and Wade? What's going on, my guys?
We're doing great. Man? We are coming off a very packed weekend, and I wanted to get some of your firsthand accounts of going. And first of all, starting off with Starrcast, if you can just kind of convey what it was like from your perspective, being on the media side of things, what the event was like just for coverage purposes.
Starrcast is always a good time. I had the opportunity to go to the one back in Las Vegas, and that was kind of my first experience doing like a being in a media setting like that. So going to this one, I was more prepared, and it was a lot of fun. The one thing that I really enjoyed was the setup. It was like a really intimate setting, and opposed to the one that was in Las Vegas, it was more spread out. But this one was like, it was easy to navigate, and it was just a good time in general.
What was the turnout like compared to, you mentioned that it's more intimate. I mean, was that reflected in the amount of, because I remember going to the very first Starrcast, Andrew, and it was almost too busy. Like, John and I doing our live show, and like these crowds for all these like meet and greets, lining up in front of the stage. It was nuts. But how was the turnout this time around?
Yeah, compared to other Starrcasts, I would say this one was significantly smaller. Mm-hmm. And that was, and I don't know if I was judging that just based off the venue, but it seemed like it was less people that attended this Starrcast, and I think that's also because like the month and just the timing of this one. I think that the one in Vegas, it had some separation between the previous Starrcast and that one. So this one was kind of, it wasn't like a last minute thing, but the distance between the All Out Starrcast and then this Starrcast, and it seemed like it was just a smaller event opposed to the other ones that I've seen.
Do you think it's sustainable that they can do 4 of these Starrcasts piggybacking off the AEW pay-per-views per year? Do you think that there's a magic number that works that people might be willing to travel for? Or is it now almost you've come to expect it that if there's going to be an AEW pay-per-view, you want to have the shoulder events that Starrcast provide?
I think so. I mean, if I was in that position, I would make sure that it's a Starrcast event for our pay-per-views. If I was just speaking from the position, if I was to be in charge of that, it just makes sense because I mean it's already associated with. I mean, even though they're not directly affiliated with one another, people still normally associate Starrcast with All Elite Wrestling because they always show up on the weekends. And then it's a great travel destination for people just in general looking to meet their favorite wrestlers, and also good for media content as well. One thing that I did want to so I think they could sustain it, but I think it works better heading into the spring and summer. I think those are the best times for people to do their travel. And I think, like, as we saw, as I saw with Starrcast 4, it was less people there, I think, because of the weather.
What panels did you get to go to? And overall, what did you think of the quality of the panels this time around at Starrcast?
The panels I went to the Ron Simmons panel and the Cody Rhodes panel that was hosted by Kenny McIntosh from Inside the Ropes. Yeah, I got to go to those two panels. And I was in and out of the Young Bucks panel. But my favorite panel of them all was the Ron Simmons panel. It was very, informative. And he was very candid with his answers, something I did not expect. I thought he was going to be kind of, not quiet, but, he was very open about his past and, a lot of stuff that he did in his football career and, not specifically racism in wrestling, but dealing with, all the hurdles that he had to overcome throughout his career. And it was a great turnout. Like, out of the panels that I got to see, that one seemed like it was the most packed. That's just what I saw. Like, it seemed like it was more seats filled for the Ron Simmons panel, and a lot of people were interested in what he had to say.
What was kind of the general sentiment that you got from other fans, other reporters that you were talking with about how AEW has performed now that you had, about 6 weeks of television to contrast it with, as opposed to these previous pay-per-views that were just standalone shows? Did they still have that kind of that buzz attached to the product, and were people generally pretty high on the television, or was there a criticism as well that you encountered?
I do think AEW still has that new car smell to it just a little bit.
Right.
Because, it still is fairly new. Like, they're only a month in the television. But at the same time, I think the general consensus from those that I spoke to was that it seems like the males are getting, like, those dominant storylines that catch the eye that make you want to tune in. It's like the women on the roster are, like, kind of being, not, I don't want to say pushed to the wayside like that, but like you normally see them on AEW Dark, or you see them one match on the show, and it's like you see the males, they have these big storylines, and it's outside of the ring, but with the women it's more so like strictly in the ring, and then we on to the next thing. So that was kind of what I took from the other media members that were there, just from talking to people at Starrcast. It kind of seemed like everybody still has that excitement about AEW, and there's also the concern about the women's division.
This was the first time we saw a lot of the participants of the scrums getting to talk to media following their debuts on television. You happen to record a number of those and be a part of a number of those, which people can find on our YouTube, postwrestling.com, or youtube.com/postwrestling, as well as Andrew Thompson's own YouTube. But what were some of your takeaways from the members of the AEW roster that you spoke to this weekend? The media scrum that I found the most interesting, just within AEW, had to be the Marco Stunt one, and that was because Marco Stunt, you could tell he's still like new to that setting, and the same thing with Hangman Page actually. Like, there's a lot of people there that actually said some media members said that Adam Hangman Page and Marco Stunt, you could tell they were still new to, just doing the media scrums and the rapid fire questions and the unpredictability and not knowing what somebody's going to ask you in that setting. And I think a guy like there was one thing, Sammy Guevara, when he did his media scrum in character, and then he had a question put on him where he kind of like had to step out of character, but he really transitioned really quick back into character, and I like the way he maneuvered into that. So, yeah, like that was one of the big takeaways. Like, I just noticed that some of the guys are still getting used to, doing the media stuff and, Does it bother you, as a journalist when you have to kind of navigate between, kayfabe and non-kayfabe answers? Do you have a preference, or do you think it's just maybe a colorful part of professional wrestling interviews?
From a content standpoint, it does annoy me. Because, of course, when you go to the media scrum, the point is to get the most content that you can on a respectful level. Of course, you don't want to, go in there and ask nothing crazy, but you still want to be able to generate content. And when somebody's in character, it's really hard to do that because there's really nothing you can pull from that. But like when I see people in character, when I see wrestlers in character, the thing I try to do is come up with a question that it can make them jump out of it just for a second. Like if you can pull something out of them just for a split second, then maybe they'll go give you a longer answer and then they'll jump right back into character. But yeah, it does kind of just annoy me just a little bit, like not anything too crazy, but when they stay in character for those media scrums.
As you're like assessing the entire landscape, Andrew, do you think that this is, AEW has been very forward with, I think, granting media this kind of access, treating these, closer to a sports presentation where guys are made available after. This is something you never get in a WWE setting, but, there's other promotions out there that MLW, I think, is very good. Like, there is not a day that goes by that I don't have something in my inbox about something coming up with MLW. Impact holds, like, their weekly calls and stuff like that. Do you see that this, outside of WWE, that this is slowly becoming the norm, that the media accessibility, it's starting to get a bit better and there's less of that wall between performers and media?
Yeah, that's what I really like, is that, like you just said, is that it's less of that wall and it's being torn down. And it's like when you try to keep media away from your performers, it just makes it difficult. Not I don't want to say difficult to cover the promotion, but like you said, with MLW, they're so open with their coverage, and they always send in press releases, and you have the media box where you can easily just apply to get an interview with somebody or speak with somebody. Same thing with Impact. They always send out the press releases, and they do the media scrum sometimes, and the AEW is doing the exact same thing. It just makes the bridge to company to media or promotion to media so much easier. And then, like I said before, like just from a content standpoint, it's also good for the media because we get to be able to speak with these performers and just gauge their thoughts on what's going on in the company, and it's not hard to tell what's going on because they're so accessible.
Now, what was your setup like at Full Gear, and were you able to just watch the show from the seats? Where were you during the pay-per-view?
Yeah, I watched the show from the seats. I was in the level 200 section, the Royal Farms Arena. Like the way the arena was set up, it was perfect. Like I don't know who designed that arena, but I don't think it was a bad seat in there, honestly.
That's why it's been in existence for so long. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now,
definitely.
Certainly during, up until the final two matches, it seemed to be a crowd that on the broadcast, it would go up and down. Tell us about being in the arena, and were you surprised at some of the comments about the crowd on the broadcast? Was it different inside the arena?
I actually saw a lot of stuff about that, like a lot of stuff on social media about that, how it came off on TV or on pay-per-view, how the crowd seemed really low. From my standpoint, they were kind of hot the whole show. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, there were some points where it did get low. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I felt like it started off really hot with Proud and Powerful and the Young Bucks. And then when Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson came in, crowd went crazy for that. I'm pretty sure that came through on TV. And then, on paper, I keep saying on TV. But like, I would say, like I agree with what she's saying. Up until the last two matches, that is when the crowd like really got amped up and they were really into it from start to finish. And that Cody and Jericho match, I went into that match with very, very low expectations. That's why I think I enjoyed it the way I did, because I was expecting them to go in there and just try to do it. Like I thought they were really going to go to 460, so I just went in there with super low expectations, and that match turned out way better than what I expected.
Was it evident right away to the crowd when Cody did the dive and sliced up his forehead? Was that easily identifiable, or did it take a few minutes for people to realize the extent to which he was cut?
I think if you were sitting on you were sitting on the side. So he landed from my view, you could see his face hit the entrance ramp. You could see his face hit the entrance ramp. But from the people on the other side, I'm pretty sure that I don't know. I'm pretty sure the people at the bottom row probably saw it. But just looking from the upper deck, they probably didn't see it all the way. But when the camera panned on him and you could see the blood and the cut, that's when everybody had that that collective gasp, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that's legit." Because I mean, you kind of knew. Like, I don't think there's no way that he could have possibly bladed or anything from that right there. And then he hit his head, and I was like, oh yeah, that looks legit. I hope they don't stop that, because they showed him the camera, and the cut looked kind of deep.
Your thoughts?
And obviously it was when he showed it on social media.
Your thoughts, Andrew, watching the main event live, and where do you stand on perhaps the side of whether or not that was? What did you think of the match?
I was actually really excited to talk to you guys about this match, because I really enjoyed the match. Like, I'm a big fan of like the the hardcore style matches, and those type of death matches. So to speak, I don't really think it was a death match, but I think that was like a really, really good hardcore match. I understand it's not everybody's flavor. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, not everybody's gonna like everything. And I mean, I kind of look at it from a perspective of, when was the last time like we truly seen like a true hardcore style match in a major promotion in the U.S. Like we see it in GCW often. You can go watch Big Japan Pro Wrestling. They do it all the time. But like, just in the U.S., a major promotion, like, you rarely see those type of matches. And I think AEW stepped out of the box. And I actually liked the match. Like, I thought it was a very good match for the hardcore type of style. And I understand people don't like that type of style, and that's not everybody's cup of tea. But just personally, I felt like I enjoyed it. I feel like I enjoyed it, and there were a lot of oohs and ahs while I was sitting in it. Some people look kind of, because there were some people who I could tell in the audience who didn't like the matches from where I was sitting, but there were also those people who really did enjoy the match.
Yeah, I think that the debate has really helped the match. I think that it's, and one as well, that as much as there were some complaints about the length of it, it never seemed that the crowd as a whole felt this 40 minutes dragged at any parts. Like, that audience was with that match the whole way, it felt like.
Yeah, I felt like Omega and Moxley, they did a good job of like planning. I don't want to say they planned out the match, but they did a good job of laying that out. Like, they started off, regular wrestling, and then normal wrestling, I guess, and then they quickly got into the hardcore stuff, and they just kept that up throughout the match, and adding the layers and adding on more stuff. And I think that's what, and then bringing out the barbed wire bed, that's what put the icing on the cake. So it was just like you said, it was a good match, and I think the debate is going to go on, and maybe if we see more those type of style matches in major promotions, then maybe people's ideas or thoughts about it might change.
All right, so after the show, Tony Khan does one of his media scrums. Now, I want to put you on the spot here, Andrew, that hypothetical that after the scrum ends, Tony summons Andrew Thompson to come over. He says, Andrew, big fan of your work. You're doing great stuff at Post Wrestling. Just tell me, one-on-one, what are we doing wrong here at AEW? Just tell me, what can we improve upon? What is Andrew Thompson, if he is so willing to give his own advice to Tony Khan, what would you be saying about AEW of taking the next step now that they've got through their first pay-per-view cycle?
Put me right on the spot, John. Put me right on the spot. But, so if Tony Khan did that, if he did that, I would, like I said earlier, I would honestly tell him that I think you guys need to really put some time and thought into your women's division. Like, they're treating their women's division like, okay, they go out there and wrestle, and that's it. Like, you got to make people care about them. Like, we all know Britt Baker's a dentist. But the one thing I saw, like, recently, like, they kind of, I guess they're going to build to a Kip Sabian and Joy Janela feud that Penelope Ford is involved in. But I mean, like, I just want to see important storylines for the women. And the thing is, like, the reason I keep saying that is because you see what's going on in NXT, and they literally having a women's War Games match, and it's like, well, what is AEW doing? Like, they got to get together. Like, the men's storylines are great. Like, don't get me wrong. But, like, when you see what's going on in women's wrestling right now, you see all these different promotions and stuff, they focusing and centering in on women's wrestling. It's like, why aren't you guys, getting into that? Like, that's honestly what I would tell Tony Khan. And other than that, I would have to sit down and think about it. But I would definitely have some more things to say.
I have those same thoughts, Andrew, about just how different, the wrestling is great on both shows, but in terms of storyline, in terms of like identity of all the different characters, there's no comparison between what's going on in NXT and the women's division in AEW. But I also wonder how much of it has to do with the fact that they've only been around for really 6 weeks on TV, and in that time really had the responsibility of having to establish their male main event stars.
That's very true.
And also with the added, I would say, I don't want to say handicap, but challenge of maybe having Rio be a champion and unable to necessarily cut the promos that even somebody like Britt Baker might be able to. That's something I really still want to see them tackle and see if they can do effectively. But in the weeks ahead, how would you promote somebody like Riho?
For Rio, the thing is, I feel like you need to establish a credible challenger or challengers for her. Like the Emi Sakura, like that was a good feud, but they had to tell that story on their own. Like I saw them on social media, they had to literally promote that match and tell the backstory of that match on their own. Like, and he basically taught Rio everything she knows, for lack of better words. And I don't really know where they should go, but I think the best thing is, like, for building up any division, is you need to have feuds outside of the title picture. And like we kind of saw that last night on NXT, like we have feuds going on outside of the title picture, but everything is still ultimately revolving around the championship. That's what it's all gonna come back to. Like that's what I feel like they need to do. And I see Impact does the exact same thing. It's just feuds outside of the title picture, and then everything eventually comes back to it. So that's what AEW needs to do. They need to start establishing their talent. I mean, their female talent, and just give people a reason to care about your women's division. Like, don't just leave it to the wayside. Because in the tag team division, I'm interested in their tag team division because there's stuff going on outside of the division. I mean, outside of the tag titles, like the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus thing they did last night, when they kind of played up Marco Studd joining the Dark Order, and then Luchasaurus made his return. And he played us at that media scrum. He said he was gonna come back in 2020. So he fooled us with that one.
Can't trust a dinosaur. That's the lesson from the media scrum. Just on the WWE front, obviously it was a big story this week. CM Punk appearing on WWE Backstage. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of attention on next week's episode. As someone that is covering the news, what do you expect out of WWE Backstage? Do you have any kind of bar that you hold this show to, or do you just look at this as it's a WWE talk show and not to put so much stock into it in terms of what kind of news content is going to come out of this studio show? Because it's kind of an interesting show to analyze from that perspective.
I try not to put too much stock in it, but at the same time, I do feel like they try to, step into that media role, and they try not to be, they like, from what I see from the shows that I watch on Backstage, they try not to play home too much. Right. But at the same time, like, you still kind of do have to play home, because that's that's what it is. But I feel like the CM Punk edition, I feel like that's going to add a lot more viewers to the show for sure, especially because since he announced that he's going to be on there next week. Like, I know you guys probably saw the rating for Backstage. They went from 50K 2 weeks ago to 100K this week. And I'm very interested. Like, I'm not even a big ratings guy, but like, I'm very interested to see what the rating is going to look like next week after Punk shows up, just to see like the effect. If he's still, because I'm pretty sure he's still, I guess we're going to find out, but just to see the effect that he has, if he still has it on, the WWE product. And I know a lot of people are very excited, because I mean, it's like we just fans in general, we're jumping, we're thinking about Christmas before it comes in regards to CM Punk. Like, everybody's like, oh my goodness, he might, this might be a sign that he might step into the ring one day, but I'm holding my breath on that, because I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like he might just want to do the media thing, and I'm interested to see how it comes to, when it comes to a point that he might have to be critical of WWE, how he handles that. And I'm very interested to see how people react to that that's watching the show when that criticism comes.
Yeah, and there's going to be, inevitably, that story that is going to probably test that theory of someone that, if you're from Punk's position, that you do want to address. And it would have been really interesting if this show had been on the air immediately after the last Saudi Arabia show, or even going into the Saudi Arabia show. And are there going to be philosophical differences there? I think that's more than reasonable to expect. As you're throwing together today's news update, what are some of the stories you're monitoring today, Andrew? What are the big things going on?
We got some good stuff in the update today, man. We can't give away too much. You gotta let the folks check it out for themselves. But at the same time, we got some good stuff. This Michael Elgin, he recently did an interview, and he said that he didn't say which Wrestle Kingdom it was, but I'm guessing it's recent because he just finished up with New Japan last year, I believe, or he left New Japan last year. He said that it was it was the pitch, and it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to be him versus Kenny Omega versus Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan. Like coming up near Wrestle Kingdom, they just immediately scrapped the match. And he said he didn't know what went wrong. And he also talked about New Japan favoring a new quote unquote toy that they have. Like he specifically mentioned guys like John Moxley and El Phantasmo, how they just come in and get all this stuff and they kind of forget about the talent they already have. And it's a bunch of results in there, and some notes that I'm sure people will love. And Booker T talking about Jordan Miles and CM Punk, and Booker T said he was genuinely surprised by the CM Punk thing, like he didn't have a clue. And they actually went to go get dinner afterwards, but they didn't talk about anything crazy. He said it was just small talk.
Oh, well, you can look forward to all of that up at postwrestling.com. Andrew Thompson doing fantastic work. As we mentioned, he also has an interview up there with Trish Adora, so go check that out. And it'll be this Saturday. A busy man here at Post Wrestling. Andrew will be joining Nate Milton for a review of Planet 51, starring Dwayne Johnson.
Hold on. So when Nate originally told me about, like, asked me to fill in for the guest host that couldn't make it anymore, he just told me, he said it was a movie, and I was like, oh, I wonder what movie this is. And I asked him, I go and look it up on Netflix. And I'm like, am I looking at the right thing? Like, is this what I'm watching? So it's like a kids movie, and this would kill me. And they said you were the demographic. I mean, you were the demographic, like saying the age of when this movie came out. And I'm like Nate, I don't know what type of kid you thought I was. I was 13 years old, 14, but I was not watching this.
I won't lie. I had never heard of this movie in my life.
This is for sure the least watched Rock movie ever made. Like, it's an animated movie where Rock does the voice of, I don't even know what, like, is this, what is the story here?
The story is that the show's, the movie's title actually outnumbers the amount of people that probably paid to go watch this thing when it was in theaters, would be my guess. But Andrew, shine some light on what Planet 51 is or was.
Okay, so I literally just watched this movie last night, and basically what it is, it's about a guy, and the Rock is playing the role of an astronaut, and he crashes onto an alien planet, right? But the aliens look at him as an alien because he looks so different from everybody else, and the Rock looks at them as aliens, and then like they all come together at the end. And I'm not gonna lie, there was some moments during the movie where I like genuinely laughed. But I was still laughing at Nate. I was like, Nate, what kind of kid do you think I was? Like 14-year-old kid watching Planet 51. But I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed the movie for what it was, and I'm looking forward to reviewing it with Nate. So, yeah, that's going to be a good time.
Well, you know what? I know we got Planet 51 coming, but I know not long after this one, maybe even the next one.
I think I'm next.
Is the Tooth Fairy. So, John, I think you're on deck, which I'm really excited for.
I will share all about my sit-down interview with Dwayne Johnson at the media junket for the Tooth Fairy.
Amazing.
I claimed this one way back. Unfortunately, it requires me having to watch this damn thing again. So that will be, I think I'm up next month. So, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to your update today and your frequent appearances here on the Hangout.
As I appreciate y'all for having me. I just want to thank y'all again. I love working alongside you guys. It's always a good time. Thanks for all your support, hospitality, man. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
Awesome work this past weekend in Baltimore. You were killing it all weekend. So we thank you very much, Andrew.
You're making us look good. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, John. Thanks again, man.
All right. Hope you recover from Planet 51, Andrew. Thank you. He's actually piqued my curiosity to not quite sit down and watch this movie, but
I might
at least broach the idea of watching the trailer.
I would consider it 2 times the speed viewing on Planet 51 just so I could listen to the review.
Minimum. Latest update was Arthur's Christmas on Netflix. This was the latest.
That's what you watched?
This was the latest Christmas
movie.
So
this is really Christmas season for you, or like
it's begun.
All your free time.
Oh yeah. I got my tree.
Wow.
It's outside.
Okay.
I'll show you after.
Arthur's Christmas.
So Arthur's Christmas is the story of a Santa Claus whose 2 sons work in the North Pole, and it's quite the elaborate setup they have. And there's the older son that feels he is next in line to assume the Santa suit. And then the younger son who truly loves Christmas and has a real good heart about things. And on Christmas Eve, all the toys are delivered except for one. One child in England, Gwen Hines, did not get her toy bike. So Santa kind of says, well, it's only one. And this is really devastating to Arthur and to all the elves when this is found out. So Arthur goes rogue.
Are we talking about the Aardvark, the cartoon Arthur?
No. This is a different Arthur.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, this is
just
a different
guy
Arthur.
named.
There's more than one Arthur out there.
It's a live action film.
No, it's an animated film.
Okay. All right.
So Arthur enlists his grandfather, the outgoing Santa Claus that passed it on to the current Santa, and they pull out an old school sleigh, and then they set out to go deliver this one final toy. That's the premise.
And your review?
I'm not done the movie yet.
Oh,
so
you're partway through.
Dude, this thing's like an hour and 50 minutes. You're like an hour in.
You don't have time for Thor Ragnarok, yet you have time for Arthur's Christmas.
This was Wednesday. This is what me and Max do on Wednesdays.
Well, I look forward to the review. Will you maybe a top 10 list is in order for?
I'm at 2 already. So
yeah.
Santa Claus is number 10. There will be nothing that is lower than Santa Claus.
I look forward to these weekly Christmas reviews.
Okay, well, I'll keep it up. Netflix Kids has quite a bit.
Neil, our man, I don't know what your history is with Christmas movies.
This guy could voice Santa Claus. You could pass as a Saint Nick.
You think? I don't know if I've got I don't know if I've got a North Pole kind of vibe going on, but
you have an authoritative voice, Neil.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Very nice.
I think it works.
I have just a couple of comments and then a question this week, if that's all right.
Okay, a couple comments and a question. Go. Comment number 1.
Comment number 1 is for you, John.
Okay.
And it's just to say that I think it's very big of you to go back to the I forget the call sign for the radio station, but the
CIUT.
CIUT. I thought that was. I saw your tweets about it, and that I suppose you were a high school senior. Is that or is it
I was in 12th grade.
Let me just interrupt. Mouth raised $1,500 during his
2-hour show.
His 2-hour show, which is incredible.
Fabulous.
Oh man! Yeah, I have to show you when I was in the studio and Mouth goes live. And he just goes for 2 minutes.
It was awesome. Yeah, I heard.
Like off the top of his head.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there, just watching this guy in action.
I mean, I've always listened to Dan, of course, like talking about wrestling radio. I think he's in his real element when he's like doing a
100%.
music show,
100%.
talking about his favorite bands. So it's up in podcast form.
Yeah, you can go up to CIUT.fm and you can just look up the shows there, and it's got a link each week. Mouth is on there from noon till 2, and the latest show is always up there.
It reminded me a wee bit of the old days of listening to you guys on my time zone anyway. At an ungodly hour on a Sunday night, Monday morning.
Well, this is why I did the show, Neil. I knew that you would be able to tune in at a reasonable hour if I went on at noon Eastern time for you, which would have been, 5 p.m.?
That's right. Yeah. And I saw your tweet, and then Wai tweeted out he's on air now. So I thought, well, let's have a listen to this, I heard him talk about his, how Bohemian Rhapsody was, from that Queen album is, the one that everyone knows, but you're right. He was just in his element, and it's so weird because I'm used to the Mouth from, tuning into TSN, the TSN website years ago, and I didn't hear him speak about music very much. But John, I just thought it was a really, you're not Oprah Winfrey or some sort of mega star, but you could have big timed and said, look, I've got a show to do. I'm going to miss one of my shows. So I thought it was good to give back, and to go do that, So and you came over very well.
I'll never turn down someone patting me on the back. So go on, Neil.
Yeah, and when are you getting that tower at the Post Office West? Because you discussed how much it costs to maintain the transmission tower, and that's what we need is a post wrestling 24 hours a day.
That'll be our next Patreon goal, having a transmitter tower.
Yes.
All right, comment number 2, Neil.
Yes.
Comment number 2 is for Wai, and this is as someone who's just sort of recently started dabbling around with live feeds and kind of some of the techie stuff. I'm stunned, Wai, when I watch you on this YouTube feed that you're able to completely engage in conversation while you set up all the tech stuff, you're doing the live feed. You're fielding the phone calls. You're doing the levels live. You're contributing to the live chat,
and I'm just sitting there.
And you're just conversing. No, John, but I mean, you're a multitasking phenomenon. And I know you've got lots of experience from the radio station, but I still think it's amazing that you can just sit back and look so relaxed while it's obvious you're doing all these things.
Wow.
So,
thank you so much.
We'll start the live feed at 2:50 p.m. It'll balance out.
I appreciate that, Neil. But it certainly helps having John here, where he could very much do this job himself as well. So I think the two of us together, we make a very good team, and we're able to rely on each other, and especially callers like yourself who really have come through really well. Like, I'm always so happy to do this show because all of our calls are often very good.
That's why we're on in prime time in Ireland. Like, we're huge there.
This is it, yeah.
And your question, Neil.
The question was, and again, it's really not that much wrestling. Well, it's kind of tangentially wrestling related. Is going back to last Saturday night. You guys have talked about your process for reviewing live shows when the two of you get together, and it's that pretty much. And I always laugh when I think of this, that you're sitting in silence, not talking about it. You're just watching it, so that you can save your discussion for the recap, especially the pay-per-views when you're both in the same room watching it.
Yeah, I imagine it's a bit of a culture shock for Braden and Davey when they come over, because it's very quiet.
I really get the sense that like they always like feel like we're. I mean, they come here to hang out with us, and I'm sure they enjoy it, and we enjoy their company a lot. But I think they're the type of fan who, like, when they go to a wrestling show, they're like, we see Davey like go crazy on TV. So like, I think he typically like enjoys more of like they enjoy more of a party atmosphere, and they create more of a party atmosphere when they're watching wrestling by themselves. With us, it's like we're on our laptops. We're the least fun people to watch wrestling.
We're the live action librarians.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. But that was you preempted my question, which was this past Saturday was a different, because you alluded to the fact on your shows running into last Saturday that you had guests, and it was going to be a bit of a more social atmosphere. And you mentioned that Davey brought dumplings and so on. And I was just wondering, what was that like?
The dumplings were great.
Dumplings were awesome. Yeah.
He brought chicken and dumplings from this place downtown.
I'll be honest, it's very similar to like what the atmosphere was like when I used to join the Law as a call screener, watching pay-per-views with you, Dan, and Jay, where like it was. I know these guys were working. They were hard at work, paying close attention to it. So it wasn't like, we could like bullshit and just like talk about whatever, or even like go crazy. There are moments where we have that, but largely it's a bit of more of a working environment. And I think Davey and Braden understand that. They do these shows themselves too. So in that particular instance, I mean, it was still fun. It was cool to have everybody around. We all reacted to certain things. I got to get their perspective for certain matches. They got to, maybe see us at work. But yeah, it's always enjoyable. But I will say it's more of a work atmosphere.
That's really cool. And just one maybe very brief last thing. I know I had tendency to go on sometimes.
Why not?
Well, I just would encourage patrons, especially new ones perhaps, that don't sleep on the archives. I mean, I have been saving up the I'm your hype man.
Go on. Go on.
This is great.
But I've been saving up the last few episodes of the double shot, because I had been way behind with Glow, and I thought, well, I'm a bit like you, John. I don't really care that much about spoilers, but I don't want to hear a recap of a show that I intend to watch. So I'd rather hear the recap and your thoughts afterwards. So I got to the penultimate episode of the double shot, I think it is, and on that show also, where you recapped very, very well, I have to say, masterfully. I thought the Bloodsport 2, Josh Burnett's Bloodsport 2, and it pushed me to get the VOD and watch it because, well, you see, I wasn't very familiar with what that is, and I thought, well, if I don't like death matches, blood sports sounds a bit, sounds a bit gory. Of course, it's not. It's this shoot style thing, and so it's just an example of you can go back, you can listen to a really good review and think, wow, I must watch that, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. And there's Tom Lawler now as free agent, and I agree with what you said, John, on Rewind to Dynamite last night. I think he's underrated as a talent, and even though he's 38, he's in phenomenal shape. He's extremely fit, and I'd love to see him in one of the bigger promotions. Impact you talked about as a possible destination, but I'd love to see him on AEW. Would be my dream, because he's a very funny guy. I mean, I listen to Filthy Four weekly with him and Brian, and he's very witty, he's very sharp, he's very well spoken as well, and I think if he could get to do his own promos rather than anything sort of scripted for him, that would be excellent. But I've gone way off topic and way over time, so thanks guys for bearing with me, and I'll hopefully speak to you next week.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it as usual. As we await the ratings for Wednesday night.
We're still about 10 minutes away.
10 minutes away. Let's take one more phone call, or as many as we can fit in at this time, and we go back to the phone lines. Caller, you're in the cafe. What's going on?
Hello?
Hi, what's up?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey, guys, it's Derek calling from Orlando.
Hi, Derek.
Hey, Derek, what's up?
Nothing much. I wanted to talk about actually some MMA real quick.
Sure.
I wanted to get your take on who, looking at Israel Adesanya and Jorge Masvidal, just who you guys think are the, major stars coming out of this year. Which one do you think is bigger, and which do you seeing having the bigger year next year?
Well, I think those would be the two names that you would isolate for stars that were created in 2019, which is really something when you look at Jorge Masvidal's year and contrast it to a year ago, where he didn't even fight in 2018. This was someone that had been, a guy that's been fighting for 15 years prior to this, and just had a remarkable year with the stoppages of Darren Till, Ben Askren. That was a huge victory, and then peaking with the Nate Diaz fight. So I think Jorge Masvidal is in a position for a huge fight in his next go, whether it is with Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, or whether it's this proposed Nick Diaz fight, which I don't know how I feel about the idea of Nick Diaz fighting at this point, but he's got some enormous fights on the table, and I don't think that there's necessarily a wrong choice there. And for Israel Adesanya, yeah, he, to me, is someone that I would like to see him stay at middleweight for the time being, but he would be just below Masvidal in terms of breakout potential. I think what Adesanya needs is that big opponent, and I don't see him fighting John Jones in the immediate future, but maybe that's a fight they eventually get to. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on between both of those guys. All right.
All right. Thank you for your phone call.
Yes. One final UFC pay-per-view this year. That's the three. Me and Wai were discussing this, that weekend in December, the 14th, 15th, and 16th has SmackDown and ROH's Final Battle on the Friday. Saturday has the NWA pay-per-view that Power is leading up to, along with the UFC 245 show. And Sunday we've got a TLC pay-per-view from the WWE.
That is a crazy, crazy weekend.
And they're all just starting to look like that now.
Yeah. Back to the phone lines. Caller, you're in the cafe. What's going on?
Good afternoon, guys.
Oh, boy.
I was worried. I was getting worried. It was 4:10 p.m. Where is this guy? He's off watching Heroes of Wrestling right now, which I will update you, Brandon. I have not watched a second of yet. Thank you for making weekend plans for me. That will be what I'm watching this weekend. Heroes of Goddamn Wrestling.
And just for you, I'm going to watch it 3 times.
Okay. Maybe can we split it, and then I'll watch it 0.
3 times in a row. How about that in the same viewing?
Yes. 9 hours of Heroes of Wrestling. Enjoy. What's on your mind, Brandon? What do you want to discuss? I know you're gonna make some reference to. I'm gonna guess right now something about the Nick Diaz interview that Ariel Helwani did this past week. What did you take away from that 48-minute interview?
That he shouldn't be fighting and he should leave Las Vegas.
I think Wai needs to sit down and watch this interview.
Watch the interview, of course. I'm always down to see it.
Like Nick is always a wide-ranging interview. This thing was just all over the place. They even had to clarify that they did have to edit portions of it. That it was just. How many questions did Ariel get in this thing, Brandon? 4?
I don't know.
Like hello and welcome. It's Nick Diaz was an 18-minute answer, I believe,
man,
give or take.
If you think Mouth could talk, man, Nick Diaz is the champion.
I think Mouth had more of a direction though, and was.
No doubt.
Nick Diaz on like a fundraiser for a community radio station. That'd be great.
That'd be something. I'm just imagining what that would sound like.
Yeah, I don't know. You could fucking donate or something. Yeah.
What else is on your mind, Brandon?
It was disturbing. I don't know why people want him to fight Jorge Masvidal, let alone anybody. He looks unfit to compete, quite honestly.
Is that right?
I'm not crazy about seeing him fight. I'll also note that like this was not like an interview that it was stunning by any sense. Like this has always been Nick Diaz as someone that I believe I've interviewed Nick Diaz. I've definitely. I remember there was a Fight Network radio show when I was producing it that he called in just to talk to Morrow, and it was all over some line that Morrow used during one of his fights, and Nick came on, and it was like 35 minutes. So that's Nick Diaz.
Have you seen his Instagram?
I'm not up at the hours that he usually is posting his videos. Is he still just hitting all the clubs?
Yeah, he's not in good shape. I mean, that guy could party all night. I mean, that's crazy, man. Like I said, he should not be fighting in a ring or in a cage.
I'm not dying to see him fight, so
no.
It's not near the top of my my want list either. So,
one more thing. Do you guys know the pay-per-view number from
the what?
AEW?
A pay-per-view number? I have not heard a pay-per-view number. I mean, it's still early. I'm sure Dave will have some early estimate in the Observer today, but I would say it's probably like we're a week away from getting probably a more concrete number of how they did. How do you think they did on pay-per-view? Like looking at the last show that did approximately 100,000 buys, where do you think they would be relative to the all-out figure?
I mean, from the ratings, I mean, I don't know if you saw the ratings bump yet, but I don't know if it's true.
So
or
there's been ratings reported on Twitter from various sources. We're just waiting for confirmation from ShowBuzz before actually describing them. But yeah, what was the question itself?
We were talking about the pay-per-view number and where you see this landing, right. Brandon.
From that ratings bump, they probably did a good number, huh? No.
So, according to sources, and again, we await ShowBuzzDaily's official confirmation, but we have listed here NXT at 730 with a 0.25 in the demo, and AEW at 957,000 with a 0.43 in the demo.
That's a really, that's a good bump from last week. Last week it was 822 for AEW and 813 for NXT. So you saw them go in opposite directions this week. So
it suggests.
It shows to me that there is something to following a pay-per-view and getting that noticeable bump when you do a pay-per-view, much like we see Raw.
And I suppose there aren't necessarily any more people watching wrestling on the Wednesday. In fact, they're just, at least compared this week compared to last week, they're just splitting the same audience.
Right. As you look, Brandon, what have you found you're watching on Wednesday nights? Are you flipping back and forth? Are you just usually choosing one over the other? And has that differed over the last 7 weeks?
Well, I was curious about the fallout from the pay-per-view, so I watched AEW, and then I DVR both, and then I watch NXT later before I go to work. So that's I usually flip-flop, but yesterday I did AEW first and then NXT. So, but they were both good. I love that MJF promo. I never heard a promo like that in like a very long time. It was freaking awesome. And I'm with you. I hope he doesn't join the inner circle with the AEW Mason Ryan.
Yes, Wardlow.
Hey, Cirque du Soleil's Mason Ryan.
He's a Cirque du Soleil guy?
Yes.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he joined that a while ago. I don't know if he's still doing it, but that's what was he was doing post WWE.
Fantastic.
So,
that's all I got. I love you guys.
Thank you, Brandon. We'll talk to you probably Tuesday for Heroes of Wrestling.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. Have you started Heroes of Wrestling?
Oh God, no. Are you kidding me?
Heroes of Wrestling is our next subject on Rewind Away.
Yeah.
That Brandon from New Jersey has chosen. So that will be coming out next Tuesday night, and Brandon will stop by to give us his thoughts on Heroes of Wrestling. So I've got to sit down. I've got to watch this. I've been putting it off. Just have to bite the bullet and watch this.
What will a third viewing, what sort of new analysis will the third viewing bring?
I don't know. It might kill me. So maybe you're going to need to speak with Brandon for the whole show, which could kill you.
I think we can go to one more call before these ratings come in. Again, we have a preliminary report on Twitter, but we are waiting for a confirmation from our usual source, SHOWBUZZDAILY.com.
Is Tony K on the line? Maybe you can just tell us.
It's not Tony K, but it is a Chris, who may or may not be a part of AEW. But Chris, what is going on?
Not too bad. First things first, John, After Christmas is a fantastic film.
Arthur
Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Some
okay.
fans in the chat room here.
Yeah. So there you go.
Much
better than Santa Claus.
Well, round about Christmas time, my boys absolutely love it. It keeps them quiet for a bit.
What are the recommendations? Give me like two others.
I'm trying to think. It's generally kind of
Do you venture into the new stuff, or do you go back to the classics, the old ones, maybe from your own childhood?
You've got to try and pass them down from generation to generation. It's maybe not go quite yet to Die Hard, but
Home Alone, very much a Christmas movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I don't know if that's sufficient for a 2-year-old, but I loved that movie as a child.
Give them some inspiration.
Yeah. I was excited for someone to try and rob our house. It's like, just try. Try. I know where the paint cans are.
Although with my two boys, I don't think any inspiration is particularly needed. But anyways, what I was wanting to ring in about was CM Punk.
Okay.
Our first call about CM Punk, surprisingly.
Do you guys see this as similar to how WWE have worked in the past with the 2K situation, with like bringing Ultimate Warrior back in? And I think when Hogan came back into the company as well, if I remember rightly, was first through the game.
Similar in the sense that it's like the first step of an informal relationship that I think it opens the door, and ultimately this is going to come down to Punk. If he wants to wrestle again, believe me, WWE is not going to be hesitating to use this guy. So I think it's the same. It's, sides that, just inherently WWE and Punk were not going to get on the same page immediately. So you have Fox as the unofficial intermediary. And I think that it's serving a similar function that 2K has over the years.
Yeah, it seems as though, as you say, it is that way in, and I think I'm unsure as to whether we will eventually get a match, but there's money on the table for both sides. I think, immediately as soon as he came out, you look on Twitter, some of the like Seth Rollins, immediately, I want that match. There is guys there that could get a good match with Punk. It's just, who do you go with? And that's if he wants to do it.
Yeah, certainly no shortage of options in terms of talent that's entered the system since he's been away. The possibilities, I think, are really endless, and I personally still feel like it's only a matter of time before he returns. So I totally see this as being a big opening of the door for those discussions. But thank you very much, Chris, for the call and as well as your patronage. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, numbers time. Brutal butchering by myself. 957,000 for AEW, 0.43 among people 18 to 49. NXT coming in at 750,000 with a 0.25 in the ever elusive demographic.
So in terms of total viewers, that is up 72,000 people from who watched wrestling last week than this week. What are your immediate takes?
Well, it tells me that there was there was a good bump from the pay-per-view from AEW. I think that was the biggest thing for AEW. And for NXT, I think that the Invasion interest, I don't think it carried beyond last week. And maybe that was because it was kind of a more toned down version on Raw. Nothing really set you up for NXT this week. And
I really do wonder if I think the disappointing follow-up editions of both Raw and SmackDown after that initial great invasion that they did on SmackDown might have played a factor into the cooling off of maybe the invasion in general. Or maybe it was perhaps the lack of AJ Styles, who is a major star, compared to really, I don't even count Bayley as sort of like the main roster representative here because she only made an appearance at the very end. These
that's
factors,
not going to make any difference.
Yeah, all these factors, I wonder if they contributed to this, especially, of course, with AEW following up Full Gear as well.
Yeah, I think that really helped AEW coming out of that. And you also had a lineup, like they did promote ahead of time. Chris Jericho would be wrestling on this show with the tag title match. You were going to get Hangman Page and Pac. So they at least did have some matches to promote as well. And I think people just wanted to see the follow-up. I think that there was a lot of steam behind the Cody loss and MJF follow-up. With Moxley and Omega, there was a lot of interest in that match coming out of the show. So it shows me that just because it's not the day after the pay-per-view, it's several days removed, you're still going to get that oxygen from Full Gear.
And it looks like AEW winning pretty much every demo except for people 50 plus. Correct?
As I look here at both. Yeah, so AEW did, they were 5th for the night among males or people 18 to 49, 0.29 among people over the age of 50, while NXT did a 0.35 in people over 50. So that's still a demo that they have continued to own over AEW, and that's kind of been the one demo that WWE has consistently held onto on Wednesday nights.
Yes, and I'm trying to just compare some of these numbers. Last week, females 12 to 34. NXT actually beat AEW with 0.13 versus 0.11, and this week females 12 to 34. It looks like NXT did, what did we hear, 0.10 compared to AEW's 0.21. So big jump for AEW, pulling in the lead in that particular demographic, which is pretty fascinating. And more analysis to come, of course, from John Pollock in the days following.
Yeah, we'll have something up tonight on all of this.
We go back to the phone lines now. This person's, I believe, been trying to get into the show for quite a bit. But caller, you're in the cafe. What's going on?
Hi, it's Rory from Melbourne, Australia.
Hey,
good
Rory.
to talk to you guys.
What's going on?
Just wanted to know your thoughts on the whole Kenny Omega and NJPW situation. And, just want to know what you think is going to fill out the rest of the Wrestle Kingdom card. Do you see a John Moxley coming over and filling that out? And what do you expect for New Year's Dash as well, apart from the great ceremony? I'll keep it short. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
I'm really looking forward to that Liger retirement ceremony. Like, I could see us leaving Japan, and that is the big takeaway from the entire trip, is being there. If it's done to the degree that I think everyone has very high expectations for.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I think that might be, we don't know what match he's going to have on that last Tokyo Dome show, and I expect that one to be an incredibly emotional affair no matter who the opponent is. So I certainly see that being sort of the emotional peak of potentially the weekend, culminating, of course, with the ceremony on the Monday. What else will fill out that show?
It's all going to be secret matches until the day of. Like, that will be. They're not going to announce matches for New Year's Dash.
I think he was asking about the Dome shows.
Oh,
as
the
well.
Dome shows.
Yeah, I certainly see Moxley having a role. I mean, the fact that they've opened the door for Kenny or Chris Jericho suggests to me that Moxley will perhaps get that same treatment.
And I think they've teased it now with Lance Archer, so I could see.
Oh, have they with Moxley?
When Archer won the U.S. title that Moxley never lost, I think that's kind of. I'm looking at that match as happening.
You don't think they'll finish the story with Juice first with Moxley?
It just seems like Juice is almost being programmed. I mean, if you watched this past weekend, the San Jose show, after Archer beat Finlay, it was Juice coming out to kind of tend to Finlay, almost teasing something with Archer and Juice as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe, I don't really like a three-way with Moxley, Juice, and Archer. I think you go with one or the other.
Well, again, you do have 2 nights. So maybe
you do have 2 nights. You could do
Juice Archer first, and then the winner faces Moxley potentially.
Yep. I also don't hate the idea of, granted, they're not the maybe the favorite to win the tag league, but Juice and Finlay is at least something fresh. I really don't want to see Evil and Sonata win this thing for a 3rd straight year for the latest match with the Gorillas. I do not ever need to see that tag match. And it's nothing against the match, but I just feel I've seen that match countless times.
For sure.
That I'd like to see something fresh. Now, on the Kenny Omega front, this was in the Observer last week, so I just want to read it for the context. When Kenny Omega went to Japan for the DDT show, this was a weekend ago, he was stopped going into the country. It's the 3rd time this has happened since he left New Japan. Something happened where there was an attempt to get him banned from going to Japan for 10 years. He did get in, like he has every time, and work the show. But he was very bitter about New Japan, and Nick Jackson made a cryptic tweet about New Japan. Suffice to say, feelings are very bad right now with them, even though Jericho is going to the Tokyo Dome since he has a separate deal. Nothing has been said regarding Jon Moxley. Okay, that's beyond the Omega fact. So earlier this week, Harold May on the New Japan website said, by the way, a few days ago, there were some unbelievable rumors that New Japan tried to prevent Kenny Omega from entering Japan, but there was no reason why a company could not do that. I don't want to do that. I thought it would be through because it was rumors spread from somebody's speculation, but I mentioned that it was important to tell the fact by denying it once. Kenny Omega's made a great contribution to New Japan, and I wish him success. And maybe some of that was lost in translation. But anyway, essentially, Harold May denying this. Now, I think it should be clarified here that it was stated Kenny Omega, since leaving New Japan, 3 times he's had trouble getting into Japan. It was not outright said that New Japan caused this. I guess some people inferred that from it. But nonetheless, that was Harold May's response to that story regarding Kenny Omega.
Yeah, I mean, certainly this is, I guess, largely based off of speculation, and I don't know whether or not the truth will come out, but I think something we could tell is that there's going to be interesting stories coming out from Kenny Omega, and he said that as much himself, where he says, he tweeted out on November 8th, one day I'm going to have a lot of wild stories to tell about my 2019 that a lot of people don't want to believe, but the truth is actually
Omega Man 2.
He says, but the truth is actually way worse than what's been rumored and or reported. Until then, one day until AEW Full Gear. So this was reported shortly after these rumors came out, and I guess it makes you wonder. Yeah, certainly. So I don't know. It's one of those, another big major story in 2019 that may or may not go resolved.
Look out for Kenny Omega's book one of these days.
Ooh.
All right, that's going to wrap things up. So thank you to Andrew Thompson for joining us. All of the great calls. The show always flies by. Thanks to all of your phone calls. Of course, Wai Ting for manning the ship. Thank you as always. Wai and I will be back on Friday with Rewind to SmackDown. If you're a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe, you can tune into that as well. A new British wrestling experience coming your way with Martin Bushby, Benno, and Jamesy coming at you. And then the Rocky Maivia Picture Show Saturday with Nate, Thunderstruck on Sunday, and Post Pro Res with myself and WH Park on Sunday night. Busy weekend here at postwrestling.com. That is it. Farewell from the cafe.